Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our sixth lesson, part B. In the first part, alhamdulillah, we looked at some detail into the imperfect verb al-mudari, an action that is not yet complete. We looked at its various conjugation for form 1, all the three possibilities, and we looked at each example in some detail. We have already previously seen the map of the Jumlah Fayliyyah. I'll take a quick overview in this lesson, and I'll give you a few examples with al-mudari, just to show you that there is no difference between madi or mudari as far as the verbal rules are concerned. The doer, the object, etc. are following the same. In the same principle, attached pronouns coming as object is also the case with the mudari as it is with al-madi. So these are the basic principles, the tools necessary for you to begin to recognize them, to use them, to translate them correctly. And it is a very fundamental lesson in Arabic. Grammar is usually a place where most people get stuck, and that is the reason why I'm actually spending a bit more time on the mudari, giving you all the variations for our benefit, inshallah ta'ala. So let us begin by making dua, Rabbi zidni ilma, O my Lord, increase me in knowledge, asking the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our task easy for us. As a quick reminder, the scale of the mudari is as shown on the screen, where you see the ya here as the first sign of the harf of mudara, which you'll see here ya, and it can be ta, hamza or noon. And then we have the first root letter, which in this case takes a sukun. The second root letter can take dhamma, fatha or kasra, and the third root letter taking a dhamma. So these are pointing to the first root, second root, and the third root. And this is the principle all the way through. Every mudari verb will have the sign or the harf of al-mudara, which at the beginning. And then, of course, there are three different various scales that with this can go into. The first being this with the fatha, and the second is kasra, and the third is dhamma. So let's look at a few examples. Yaftahu, past tense fataha, and the mudari is yaftahu. Dhahaba yadhhabu, dhahaba yadhhabu. Then we have yadribu, and then we have yadlimu. Of course, there are only a few examples on the screen, and there are hundreds of verbs which will follow these scales. And then we have the third scale, yansuru, and then we have yakrumu. The translations are on the top there, inshallah ta'ala. So only three possibility, fatha, kasra, dhamma. So these are the three options that there are, and we've conjugated at least one for the three examples. And if you learn one of them very well, you'll get the rest for free. What I mean by that is learn one very well, and inshallah you'll be able to recognize any verb that falls into those 14 different variations of the same scale. So inshallah ta'ala, that is the bit that we did, and I did emphasize you to practice, rewrite them out. Without writing, they will not stick in your knowledge base. So spend a little bit of time, inshallah, rather than just watching the video, pause it and write the 14 different variations or sigha for each of the three examples I gave you. Inshallah ta'ala, you will thank me for it later, but throughout your life, in every Arabic study that you're going to do, this is going to benefit you, inshallah ta'ala. So the 14 variations are here with the example of the verb dhahaba, he went, yadhhabu, he goes, and you can see yadhhabu, yadhhabani, etc. So this should be easy for you. I've also explained what I've written in faint, if you can see on the board, on the screen here, inshallah ta'ala, who the doer is, etc. Now, the same was the case with the adribu. You'll notice there's no difference, exactly the same, the variation being in the second root letter. And of course, with the yansuru, we have exactly the same principle. So the principle is that all verbs will go into these that go into these scales will follow exactly the same pattern. The difference will be the three root letters. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize here for you. Of course, this on the screen, you can see it written in the table form as well as vertically down. When you want to compare verbs one with the other, writing the verb vertically down, you can see the three, and inshallah notice the variations very, very easily. I've also used some colors just to distinguish what they are. I am going to reveal what they are to you in some more detail later on, but let's learn them first, inshallah ta'ala. These colors, or if you do your own colors, it doesn't really matter. As long as you can vary them, then inshallah ta'ala, the knowledge will stick. And when it comes to more advanced, you'll be able to tell me a lot more detail than just memorizing them on their own. Also within the 14th scale, you'll notice there are some patterns. For example, we look at the first one, yadhhabu. Yadhhabu. Again, I'm using the dhahaba version. That's the one we did in detail in the first, but this applies to all of them. So yadhhabu, tadhhabu number 4, and then we have tadhhabu for number 7, and then we have azhabu for number 13, and nadhhabu for number 14. Again, the doer is identified underneath in faint just to show you what they are. Now, the plural is very easy to remember. Yadhhabuna for hum version. Antum version, tadhhabuna. So, huwa yadhhabu, hum yadhhabuna. Anta tadhhabu, antum tadhhabuna. So, you can see that, inshallah, if you use the pronouns, this will help you recall and remember them. Now, as for the plural, which are feminine, yadhhabna. Yadhhabna. There's an abrupt sukun in the last root. And then we have tadhhabna. Tadhhabna. Yadhhabna, tadhhabna. Okay, that's for you, antunna version. You female plural. And then we have our duals. Now, duals end with ani sound. We saw the same thing when we did the Muslim table back in book 1. And then we have these 3 identical. And of course, number 2 has the difference with the ya. So there are patterns. There are the green ones highlighted on the screen. There are the yellow ones highlighted on the screen. And then we have the slightly, the plurals, a feminine one's white and the other one with a red tint, just to show you the differences between them, inshallah. And lastly, tadhhabina, which is the female anti version. If you do it a couple of times like this, inshallah ta'ala, you will be able to recognize them. And then when we get to a few lessons, inshallah, you'll see why I've colored the noon in different colors. And this will reveal further grammar and remove the complexity that arises in the mudari. There is quite a bit of detail in the mudari that you do need to be aware of before you start recognizing them well, inshallah ta'ala. So I'm going to deal with all the variations that you need to know, the important stuff, but I'm going to do it in a very simpler way, or the way I find it simple anyway. And inshallah ta'ala, please try to bear with me and follow, and then this will help you repeat this knowledge and recognize it straight away, rather than spending hours and hours learning Arabic, memorizing lots of things and then forgetting and so on. Now you'll find your memorization a lot easier. So this grouping, inshallah ta'ala, we'll look at it a bit more detail, but this is what I wanted to share with you in video 1. I hope this is inshallah a revision, but this is a solid revision for you of what we done before. Easy way to conjugate al-mudari. On the screen, I've shared Surah Al-Fatihah. I'm sure all of you know, alhamdulillah, is the most common surah that we all recite. In order to demonstrate something for you, inshallah, I hope this demonstration will encourage and motivate you that whatever we are learning in this course is of benefit and directly related to Qur'an, understanding the Arabic of Qur'an. Now here you will see this word na'budu. Iyaka na'budu. Na'budu. Now, inshallah ta'ala, without much difficulty, you should be able to tell me that this is a mudari. If you can't, let me just give you the details. So we have na'budu. I hope you can see this looks like nansuru. Sorry, that dot should be there. Let me delete that. So nansuru. And this one's with sukun. Nansuru. So na'budu, nansuru. The difference is the 3 root letters. From the pattern, yaf'ulu. Remember yaf'ulu? So this is number 14. Nansuru, na'budu. Exactly the same. All the difference is the root letter here is ayn, ba, and dal. Ayn, ba, and dal, which means to worship. From this root we get ibadah, which means to worship. So na'budu, nansuru, okay, yaf'ulu, of course, number 14 will be naf'ulu, naf'ulu. So this is where na'budu, the scale comes from. If you learned the nasara pattern, yansuru pattern before, you should start to recognize it. So what can we do from here? Once we recognize that this is a verb and it's a mudari and it is on the scale of naf'ulu from yaf'ulu, which is the pattern that we've learned and practiced with yansuru. What can you do? Well, you should be able to conjugate the rest of them, going backwards, forward, etc. relatively easily, long as you've learned the pattern earlier. So let me demonstrate that for you, inshallah ta'ala, how easy it is for us to conjugate once we've learned the scale. The verb we recognized in Surah Al-Fatihah was na'budu. Na'budu. So if you know this one, we should be able to conjugate remaining 13 relatively easily. Let me give that a red color so at least you can see it. So na'budu. Na'budu and the first one, there's no difference except that it begins with ya. Ya'budu. The here version, no difference at all except that it begins with a ta. Ta'budu. So we have ta'budu, ta'budu. Now we have the anta version, also the same. We'll come back to anta in a second. I worship, a'budu, a'budu. So you can see how easy it is. I know na'budu, I can go backwards, forwards, up, down on the scale. Now the plural is exactly the same. We have ya'budu, then the una ending at the end. Anta version, ta'budu, and antum, ta'buduna. Ta'buduna. And then we have the feminine version of they, female plural. Ya, and remember the third root letter takes a sukun, and the last is the na at the end. So first root letter sukun, second root letter dhamma, and the third one sukun, and the fourth one, of course, is the addition at the end. So ya'budna, and of course the antunna version will be, you should be able to say this before I write it, inshallah. Ta'budna. So you can see we've done most of the scale very easily, just going back and remember those few points that I mentioned earlier. The duals are very, very easy. They're all, instead of do, here it becomes ta'budani, and the other two are exactly the same. You can just simply copy and paste for convenience. Here, of course, is the same except that it begins with ya. Ya'budani. Okay, ta'budani, ta'budani, ta'budani. And I told you this one is slightly different with the ya as the doer. So we have ta'bu the na. Now, once you've done one, you should be able to see how easy it is to conjugate all of them. Again, some of the ones will be more commonly used in the language as it is. So number 1 and number 4 will be the most common, always, because that's the way the language is structured. And of course, you're more likely to talk to 3 or more than you talk to dual. So these plurals will be the most important. Then, of course, we can have the singulars there coming a'budu, na'budu. Again, these are the common ones, but as long as you can recognize one scale, you can go backwards, forwards, and can form all 14. So take your time, practice, inshallah ta'ala. If you can do this, I'll give you one more example to show you how important this knowledge is and how much it will help you. Inshallah, you can recognize which surah this is. Surah Al-Kafirun, very famous surah. Most of us have memorized it. In there are some nouns. I'm sure you already know them because I did them in detail. Kafir, kafirun, kafiran, kafirin. Remember the Muslim table. And the plural of kafir is kafirun. kafiruna. Okay, and the other plural is the nasb or jar version, kafirina. I've covered this in detail in book 1 series, lesson number 4. Please make sure you've done this lesson before you're doing the verbs. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to progress. So make sure you follow the playlist, inshallah ta'ala. Now, and there's another noun here which is important for this surah, and the other this surah is abidun. This word is abidun, I should say. Abidun, abidan, abidin. Again, following the Muslim table. Okay, so the plural of that is na. And of course, it's na. So this is your plural for abid. And of course, you can make duals and all of these. You can make the feminine very easily if you go back and done book 1, lesson number 4. So what is the reason I'm sharing this with you? You can see, inshallah ta'ala, how useful this knowledge is. Again, if you have this in the back of your mind, inshallah ta'ala, you'll see how easy it is for you to now start looking at surahs of Qur'an. So this is one example of a surah. With what little knowledge we have acquired so far, let us see how much of it we can recognize, how much of it we understand, inshallah ta'ala, up to this lesson onwards. Just for your information, the word kafir and abid are also derived nouns from the root kafara and ayn ba dal, which is the same as this verbs that you see here. This word is also derived from the same root. We will learn noun derivation, inshallah, very soon as we have covered the verbs. Very important lesson also. And you'll see that, inshallah ta'ala, as we progress. So this is from what we've learned. And today, of course, we are here. And in book 1, we were here from lesson number 4. So let's quickly go through which parts of this surah we can all recognize. So I'm going to go through the surah relatively quickly, just pointing out a few things. Inshallah, in the future, Allah grant tawfiq, I intend to do analysis of surahs of Qur'an, including starting with Surah Al-Fatihah, and at least covering the most of the common surahs that we recite, just to show you whatever we've been learning in this course is practical, and of course to give us a deeper understanding of the surahs of Qur'an. Inshallah ta'ala, Allah grant me tawfiq to complete that task, but that will be after I've completed these grammar lessons, inshallah. So let's quickly look at this surah in some detail. I'm going to just highlight a few points for you so you can see here. The first word is qul. Ya ayyuha means O. Al-Kafirun, I'm sure you can recognize this as the same as this. Plural of the word kafir. Kafiruna is got al in front, it means the disbelievers. Say, O, the disbelievers. Say, O, the disbelievers. So addressing the disbelievers, say, O, the disbelievers. Then we have la, which means no. A'budu. A'budu is from here. I worship. La, I do not worship. A'budu. Ma, that which. Ma, that which is a relative pronoun here in this context. So ma means that which. I hope you can see ta'buduna, which is exactly the same as this ta'buduna here. Okay, la a'budu ma ta'budun. I do not worship that which you all worship, in the present tense. This is present tense. This is present tense. So inshallah ta'ala, I hope light bulbs are coming. You're realizing that we're learning things that are practical. Wala, and no. Antum, you all. You should recognize this, inshallah ta'ala. Abiduna, which is the plural of abid, which means worshipper. Worshippers. So the translation of this part will be Wala antum abiduna ma a'bud. Nor are you all worshippers of that which I worship. Okay? Nor are you all worshippers of what I worship. Wala, and not ana, I. Abidun, singular, this one. Abidun ma abattum. Now you should be able to recognize that is the madi, past tense. Okay? Abiduna ma abattum. What you have been worshipping. So I am not a worshipper of what you have been worshipping. Next ayah. Wala antum, and no are you all abiduna, worshippers. Okay, ma a'budu, which I worship now. So no are you worshippers of what I worship now, as in the present tense. Lakum, again we've done this in book 1, for you all, or belongs to you all. Deenukum, done in book 1 in detail, your deen, to you your deen. Waliya, and to me deeni. Okay, to me my deen. So to you your deen, meaning you all plural, and to me my deen. You go your way, I go my way. So this is the basic points of the surah. Alhamdulillah, we can all recognize them based upon simple fact that we've done this so far. Of course, there are so much detail we can discover in the surah later on when we've done a bit more grammar, but this is the basic essential meaning. So by that time you learned mudari and madi and learned a bit of the noun that I've shared with you in series 1. Alhamdulillah, we are now in a position where we can understand portions of ayat of Qur'an. I'm not saying all of it, but portions of ayat of Qur'an. And in book 1, I told you you'd be able to recognize 2-3 parts in every line. Now we're getting to 3 or 4 parts in every line of Qur'an. Remember, there are 9,000 lines in the Qur'an. The standard Mus'haf, 15 lines per page, 600 page in the standard Mus'haf. So it gives us about 9,000 lines. So huge progress, inshallah ta'ala. I hope this is helpful. If it is, do let me know in the comments, inshallah ta'ala. I'll try to make more of these as much as I can. I'm conscious of making the videos too long and doing too many examples. But when I start the other series, Allah grant me tawfiq, then you'll be able to see that everything that you're learning is directly related to you and me better understanding the book of Allah, the Qur'an. Using the imperfect tense verb al-mudari in verbal sentences. So the components of Jumlah Fayliyyah, we've done this before, just to introduce them to you, are of course the verb, the doer, and the object. Object not always necessary, and you can have lots of other things, muta'alliq. Now the fa'il is of 3 types, and the fa'il is of 2. And the maf'ul is also 2. Now, there are other types of maf'ul. They are called maf'ul fihi, maf'ul lahu, maf'ul ma'ahu, and maf'ul mutlaq. We also have hal, tamiz, and mustathna, which is exception, etc. We'll look at them later. So, and we have jar majroor, dharf, mudaf ilayhi. This you should be already familiar with. This one you're already familiar with, the object. And of course, we've done the doer and the verb in some detail with the madi. It's exactly the same principle here. So the first point is there are only 3 types of verbs. Either it is al-madi, al-mudari, or amr. Of course, we've done the madi in detail. We're now doing the mudari or al-mudari, and we're going to do the amr later on, inshallah ta'ala. 3 basic examples of sentences. Hamid went to the mosque, past tense. Dhahaba hamidun ila al-masjid. And yadhhabu hamidun ila al-masjid. So yadhhabu, he goes, present or future tense can be translated based on context. And idhhab, when I'm ordering somebody, requesting somebody, telling somebody, idhhab ila al-masjidi, or idhhab ila al-masjid, go to the mosque. So these are your 3 primary variations in the 3 types of verb that can begin in the Jumlah Fayliyyah, and of course the other bits then can cling on or be part of the Jumlah Fayliyyah. So if we look at this, as far as the verb is concerned, there are 3 options. When it comes to the doer, which is al-fa'il, there are also 2 types of doers. One is that which we find inside the verb itself. Nasaru Zaidan. Nasarat Maryamu Zaidan. Translation, they helped Zaid. So this is an internal doer, one embedded within the verb. So whenever we want to express the pronoun, we use one of the 14, whichever one we need. If we want to express an external doer, by that I mean a noun coming after, it has to be marfu', not necessarily directly after, but it has to be within the verbal sentence. It has to be marfu'. There could be things in between. So nasarat Maryamu Zaidan. Here we will not translate the female part here, she. We will say simply Maryam helped Zaid. In English, you cannot do this because in English, always the doer always comes, or the subject always comes first. So in Arabic, you can play around with order. Here, she helped Zaid, if I didn't say Maryam, but because I put Maryam there, Maryam helped Zaid. And the same thing with the mudari, yansuruna, they help Zaid. Yansuruna Zaidan. Who's the doer? Wow. What is it representing? Whom, which is they. Exactly what we've done here. So whenever we want to express some action done by one of the 14 pronouns within the mudari, we will use whichever the 14 we need. If we want to express an external doer, we can only use number 1 or number 4, after which number 1 only for masculine, number 4 for feminine. It does not matter whether the doer is singular, doer, or plural. I've been through this, and this is an area causes a lot of problem for people because they don't understand the difference between Jumlah Fayliyyah and Jumlah Ismiyah first, and that's what causes the confusion. It's a very simple principle, inshallah. So tansuru Maryamu Zaidan. Maryam helps Zaid. So I will not say she, Maryam, helps Zaid, because in English that would not make sense. So in Arabic, Maryam is cancelling the internal doer, and that is only with number 1 and number 4, be it madi or mudari. Please note that, inshallah ta'ala. So that's the basic principle. So again, if I want to say any of the pronouns did the action or is doing the action in the present tense, I will use whichever the 14 that I need, and that's it, end of story. If I want to express the doer outside, if it's masculine, I will use number 1. And if it's feminine, I will use number 4. I'm talking about the doer here. And I'll put the ism coming after, and it will be marfu. And it could be singular, dual, plural. It could be definite or indefinite. It's not relevant. What's important is the gender to match. Now, if we look at the object can be also 2. It can be a pronoun, which is the object, meaning I helped you. So you're the object now, it's a pronoun. I helped Zaid. Zaid becomes the object. It's very simple principle, same as in English. So they, yansuruna Zaidan, again, the wow is the doer, simple. They help Zaid. But if I say Maryam helps them, the pronoun whom here is coming before the doer. And this is the order change that you can see. Here, remember the order is verb, doer, object. That's the standard. But when you attach the pronoun, when you want to express the pronoun as the object, you've got no option but to attach it to the verb. Okay, this is very important. Tansuruhum. It could be who, huma, hum, ha, huma, hunna, ka, kuma, kum, ki, kuma, kunna, ina, whatever it is. And I've showed you how to attach the pronouns to the madi. Is exactly the same principle here, inshallah ta'ala, as far as the object is concerned. So the object can be a noun. It can also be a pronoun, exactly the same as the madi. And that's what this chart is explaining to you, inshallah ta'ala. So again, you can see more example here. This is the past tense. This was the mudari. So again, same thing. Okay. Nasarat hu, she helped him. Nasarat hu, she helped him. So the rules that we learned with the madi is exactly the same with the mudari. It is only sigha number 1 and number 4 that there is a possibility of an external doer. So let's quickly go through these examples. There's nothing new here, inshallah ta'ala. And if you made notes previously, at least try to write the sentences down. You don't have to do all the additional stuff I'm giving you. It's only for your information to make things easy. But please at least write the sentences down. So we have Sami'a Hamidun al-adhana, the adhan. So Hamid heard or listened to the adhan. Verb, and of course this verb has a hidden doer, mustatir, fa'il, huwa. We cancel that because of Hamidun, fa'il, and then we have al-maf'ulun bihi. So Hamid heard the adhan. The second one I wanted to say was Maryam helped the students. Now Maryam is feminine, of course, and therefore we got to use sigha number 4 with the madi, and we have here nasarat Maryamu at-taliba. Again, very simple principle, fi'lun, and of course it has a hidden doer, which is here. But because Maryamu, we're going to cancel that doer in our translation. So we have here fa'il, which is the doer. Maryam helped, past tense, external doer, and at-taliba is our direct object, which is, of course, is an ism, not a pronoun. So Maryam helped the students, I should say. So you can see here basic principle. So when it comes to the mudari, it's exactly the same principle. So here Hamid hears the Qur'an. I'm sure you can recognize this is present tense. Maryam helps Hamid. Now in the first example, I will say yasma'u. Sami'a is the past tense. Yasma'u is the present tense, meaning he hears or he listens. So Hamid listens to the Qur'an, I could say, or Hamid hears the Qur'an. Hamidun is my doer. Al-Qur'ana is the object. So here again, very simple. Fa'ilun is yasma'u, and of course it has a hidden doer, which is huwa. But because of Hamidun afterwards, I will cross this off. So I will translate as Hamid hears rather than he hears. And of course, Hamidun is my external doer. Al-Qur'an is the direct object. What does he listen to, or what does he hear? He hears the Qur'an. So direct object. In principle, exactly the same thing as we've done before. Maryam is our doer now, and Maryam of course is feminine, so we're going to use sigha number 4. Sigha number 4 is tansuru. We're using the verb help here. I just changed the verb for variation. Tansuru Maryamu. Maryam feminine coming after. Hamidan is the object. So we have our fi'lun, we have our here, which is mustatir, crossed off because of Maryamu. And Maryamu of course is the doer fa'il, and Hamidan is the object. That's basically the principle. There is no difference what we've seen with the madi. So you can see here, of course I can translate this as listen to as well. I think it probably sounds better in English, but the grammar sentence is what I'm trying to get to here, inshallah ta'ala. Again, if you can't do all the drawings, whatever, but at least write the sentences down. This will help you remember the rules. Again, with the mudari and the madi, exactly the same principle. Just for variation, let's do a few more. Here we have the believers hear the adhan. Yasma'u al-mu'minuna. Yasma'u al-mu'minuna al-adhana. Again, exactly the same principle. So we will translate the believers as the doer now. Okay, it's the fa'il, and we will ignore the internal for the external maf'ulun bihi being the direct object. So you can see here, inshallah, with a different doer, we've got the same principle. Tansuru al-muallimatani. I hope you can recognize this means two female believers. Help who? Maryam. The two female believers help Maryam. Okay, help Maryam. So again, fa'ilun. Okay, fa'ilun. Tansuru. We have our hidden doer here. Of course, it will be cut off because of al-mu'minatani, which is our dual external doer, the dual form I meant to say. And Maryama is the maf'ulun bihi, which is the direct object. So it does not matter whether it is singular, dual, plural, whatever it is, definite, indefinite. All it matters is that if this is feminine, this has to be feminine. If this is masculine, this has to be masculine. If I want to express the pronoun, I don't bother with any of this. I just choose one of the 14 that I need without the external doer bit here, inshallah ta'ala. Al-mudari with attached pronouns as the object, maf'ulun bihi. Again, recalling what we did with the madi, there are some very commonly used prefixes, things that come before the verb, like wa, fa, qad, faqad, laqad, walaqad, ma, and then kana. Kana being a verb, the others are being mainly particles that come in front of the madi to alter its meaning. I did this under the lesson called modifying al-madi. Exactly the same thing you see here, the verbs, any of the 14, and then this is the most important, the attached pronoun comes as suffix, and I explained this earlier. So all the attached pronouns will come, depending of course what you want to say, as suffix. So here we have kum, which is the attached pronoun here, kum, meaning you all, waja'alnakum, wa and, which is the prefix, we made you, kum, you all. Again, this is from, of course, from the Qur'an. So waja'alnakum, and we made you, brackets all, meaning plural, antum version, kum. So this is basic principle. Exactly the same thing happens with the mudari, but there are differences in some of the prefix that come. We will deal with them in the coming 2 lessons, inshallah ta'ala. But for now, we're going to look at the attached pronouns with the mudari very, very briefly to show you it's exactly the same. So we have here yas'alunaka. The verb here is the root of The root is seen. That's the first root. Second root is the hamza. The third is the lam. So the madi verb in the past tense is sa'ala. Sa'ala, mean he asked. Yas'alu, without the waw, yas'alu is huwa version. Huwa yas'alu, he asks. Yas'aluna, they ask. Ka is you. Okay, they ask you. And it's very commonly used in the Qur'an. I've given you some references here. Yas'alunaka, they ask you. So exactly the same thing as we've seen earlier. We'll ignore this for now. We'll look at them later. The verb and then the suffix. Suffix is the attached pronoun, always coming as maf'ulun bihi, object. So whenever you used to express the object as a pronoun, it will be an attached pronoun coming as the object. This is the standard way of doing it in Arabic. So if the object is you, I, he, she, they, a singular, dual, whichever version of the 14 that they are there, they will always have to have it as an attached pronoun. This is a normal standard way of the Jumlah Fayliyyah. So the principle is very similar. You can use the pronouns with any of these in principle. I hope this is very simple. Inshallah, we don't need to go through examples, but you will see them in the Quran being used with any of these, with any of the attached pronouns that I showed you earlier. Of course, with the ya mutakallim, you'll have the noon coming in, exactly the same as we've seen with the madi, and hum version and kum version will lead to some changes because they end with sukun, depends on what follows them afterwards. If you remember those principles, inshallah, you should start recognize them, and through practical examples, we'll deal with the variations. Otherwise, the lesson here will be way too long. So quickly look at some examples, inshallah. Yansurunaha, yansuruna, they, masculine plural, help her. Okay, I hope you can see that. Yansuru Zainabu Zaidan. Again, there is no attached pronoun here. Sorry, Tansuru Zainabu Zaidan. Zainab helps Zaid. So this one's got the object as a pronoun. This one's got the object as a noun. I hope this is easy, inshallah. Tansuruhum Zainabu. Zainabu is rafa. I hope you can see that, inshallah ta'ala. Hum is the object, so Zainab helps them. Okay, yadribuhu, he hits him. Daraba yadribu is the al-mudari, and who is the or object. Okay, this is your object, him. Then yadribuhum. Yadribuhum, he strikes or hits them. Hum is your object. Yadribuhum Zaidan. Zaid now is my doer because it's coming after and it's in rafa. And whom is the object. I hope these examples, inshallah ta'ala, highlight the very basic principles of what we've been learning so far in terms of the formation of Jumlah Fa'liyyah with a pronoun as the object. That's it for lesson number 6. Inshallah, in lesson number 7, I'm going to look at how the al-mudari is modified in its meaning by adding prefixes to it, and that will bring us in line what we've learned with the mudari, and that there is something very special about the mudari in the sense that they also have i'rab, and that is called the moods of mudari, which we will follow in the next lesson coming after that, bi'idhnillah. So I hope and pray, inshallah ta'ala, that you are now familiar with the imperfect tense. You're also revising a little bit of the Jumlah Fa'liyyah, and you've seen that there is no change when we change the verb from the madi to the mudari. And of course, we looked at some examples of the maf'ulun bihi, of the maf'ulun bihi as pronoun attached to the mudari. I hope and pray, inshallah, these lessons are of benefit. If there's things you think I should have added, please give me feedback and I will try to incorporate. But I have a list of things which I've noted down that you must learn, and I'm putting them in some sort of order so that the learning becomes natural and you can see progress, inshallah ta'ala. Again, thank you all very much for your du'as and your support and your amazing comments that you're giving me on the videos. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Some of you are benefiting greatly from these videos, and some of you saying that you've been studying Arabic for a long time, but these videos are really, really helping. Some of you are absolutely new here, and you've been motivated to learn Arabic. Whichever way, all praise and thanks belongs to Allah Azza wa Jal, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive our mistakes and also to reward us for every single second, every single effort we make towards understanding the Qur'an. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all, unite our hearts together. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to work together for the benefit of others. Please like, share and subscribe with others. And again, do continue to give us your feedback and your support, and more importantly, your du'as. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.